Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. You know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful February 6th, 2019. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I've finally gotten over all that Super Bowl excitement and that hangover and everything. So I've made it back home, and so I'm able to recline in my office and just do the show.
Yeah, I thought you were at the Patriots parade up in Boston. They said there was 1.6 million people, and I wonder who counted all of them, Big C. You have any thoughts on that, Big C?
Well, I don't think Protus counted them because it'd be more people than they had at his inauguration.
Yeah.
And he'd be going out telling them they got to do a recount.
That's funny, Big C. I know all Sphere 11 wore. Boston, man, they must get tired of having to clean up after all those parades they've been having. They had it at the end of the World Series for the Boston Red Sox. They also had it for the New England Patriots. You know, ironically, I mean, a lot of stuff happened in the sports universe, and we'll cover a lot of it coming up. But, you know, when you look at the city of Boston, they produced the Boston Celtics. They produced the Boston Penguins. They produced the used to be the Boston Patriots, but now they're the New England Patriots. So you have the Boston Red Sox, the Celtics, the Penguins. I wonder why New England changed their name from the Boston Patriots to the New England. Was it just to capture more of the region, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they actually moved out of Boston. They were playing in Fenway Park when that organization first started.
Yeah.
And then they moved up into New England, different areas.
Foxborough?
They were no longer in, once they were in Foxborough, which is a different part of Massachusetts, they were no longer in Boston, really removed from that area. So that was the reason for that name change. I mean, some teams, will maintain a logo or a name even when they move out of a city. I mean, you look at the Los Angeles Rams decades ago, Charlton, when they went to Anaheim.
Yeah.
They still maintain the Los Angeles, moniker.
Yeah.
Even though they're no longer in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So, it's all about, branding. They created a new image, Charlton. Boston had always been a loser in football.
Yeah.
Then they moved to New England. They weren't a winner right away, but once they did move there, Charlton, and change their name, they eventually made it to a Super Bowl there.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works. This segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a host of Cadillac cars. Even in San Francisco, the 49ers, they're down in Santa Clara now. They used to be at Kezar Stadium, which is pretty much between the Bay Bridge and Golden Gate Bridge in the park in San Francisco. They moved to Candlestick Point, still remain the 49ers. Now they're in Santa Clara of all cities. They're still the 49ers. Golden State Warriors, they began in San Francisco, moved over to Oakland, but they never lost that moniker, Golden State. They could have been the Oakland Warriors. Could you imagine when you think about that, for the city of Oakland losing all of their professional sports teams? But they kept that name. And then the Giants, of course, they've always played in San Francisco. They're still the San Francisco Giants. But are there other teams? And I know there are. I mean, Dallas doesn't play in downtown Dallas. They don't play in the city of Dallas. They're in Arlington, Texas. They still keep that name, Dallas Cowboys. Does that matter, Big C? I think the Redskins, Washington Redskins, they're no longer at the RFK where they were really in the city of Washington. They're up in, I think, Alexandria, I know they're no longer in this downtown D.C. area. But a lot of teams do that. They move to the suburbs where they keep the name. Your Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they do that. When you think about the Redskins, they're no longer in the D.C.
Yeah.
They're in another state in Virginia. But they kept the name because of the regionalizing of the team, Charlton, and what it was recognized by.
Yeah.
So when you look at some teams that want to hold on to what they have, finding a fit for a name, a beginning name of a team, Charlton, that ties it to a city is the toughest thing to let go of.
Yeah.
And cities can hold on to names when teams decide to leave it if they choose to.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're going to have the Raiders leaving. And, you know, if they're not playing in Oakland next year, why will they be called the Oakland Raiders? If they're playing in San Francisco, wouldn't they be, you know, logistically be the San Francisco Raiders?
Yeah, you would think so.
You know, when you think about these things about teams and the thought process that goes into marketing, you know, a lot of things have to change, and especially if you're only doing it for a year.
Yeah.
Especially with the Raiders, Charleston, think about all of the merchandising that you need to change for a year. And it's only going to be good for a year. So It's going to cost you as much money in changing the merchandising and the logo as it is the move.
Yep, Miami Dolphins, they play in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, that's, you know, a good 30-minute drive up from Miami, so they're also keeping that name. So a lot of teams do that, and it's part of that. I wonder if there's a mayor of Foxborough, if it does have a township, if they'll actually want to sue the Patriots and say, we want you to change New England to the Foxborough Patriots, Big C, to get that revenue. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, I think because of NFL licensing and products and stuff, you know, they control what a team is named. You know, the NFL and all professional sports have to approve the name change of a team. I mean, you look at used to be the California Angels, now the Los Angeles Angels.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, it's all about, you know, what you need branding-wise and, you know, what's in the name of a team. I think the last name of the moniker of the team, not the city, but what the team's name is what's most important.
Yep. Yeah, that's important too, Big. So a lot of people are, you know, neighbors will have a dispute. You could have a neighbor, they can buy a house, and they can say, you know what, according to code, your fence is actually, you know, 2 feet under my property. So I want you to move your fence over 2 feet, Big C, because they don't want you having any rights to their land. But a city can have a team play 20 miles outside of the city, and they're okay with it. Why can't we all just get along like NFL owners? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, you know, that city is always going to make money off of that team. You know, how would the 49ers sound as the San Jose 49ers, you know, versus the San Francisco 49ers, Charleston, which that logo has been there forever.
Yeah.
You know, you go back to the days of John Brody playing quarterback when they played in an NFC championship game against the Cowboys, where that legacy really started under Coach Dick Nolan.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, when you think about all those people that are involved in that, and you spoke about the Warriors, they've always been the Golden State Warriors, Charleston.
Yeah.
Since they were playing in the Cow Palace there in San Francisco, and they moved across over to Oakland to play in that arena. But they also had a team out there, a hockey team called the Golden Bay Seals.
Yeah, that's right.
So they've had professional sports, Charlton, that use the region name.
Yeah.
You know, other than just the city, they use the region's name.
Yep, they did. They did that, and you know, it matters a lot to old timers. The reason I want to bring that up, I look at what happens with the State of the Union last night, and I was just talking about how you got to plant your seeds, and everything's based on competition. Nobody's going to give you anything.
Until the spring comes around, we will put the seeds out in the garden. We got that covered.
I understand. Be careful with Monsanto. They'll sue you if some of their seeds end up in your ground. They will sue you. I know they love feeding people food, but that's just a funny story. One of the biggest food conglomerates in the world, and they will sue local farmers if their seed ends up being blown over to your land. I don't know how they track the seeds, but I guess they could do that. I just want to get your thoughts. I didn't really see the State of the Union last night, but I heard some of it, and I think it's so important. I know a lot of times people just want to see who won a game, and they couldn't care less who runs the country, Big C. They just want to know, is my team going to beat the NBA deadline for trading tomorrow, which comes up in about less than 20 hours from now. But I just thought, for optics, I saw POTUS get a standing ovation when he did something that he's never done. POTUS congratulated kind of the Me Too movement and all of the women that have put their hat in the ring to run for the presidency of the United States. And he also applauded women for having a big shift in Congress, as well as people of color. They kind of lumped it all in together. And then Nancy Pelosi standing behind him, he actually got a standing ovation. This is the same man that got a standing ovation for applauding women being, advancing in Congress and in the workforce, but the same guy that has so many lawsuits against women and calls them all liars whenever. I just want to know, there's kind of a juxtaposition. I just want to know your thoughts on that, Big C.
Well, Charlton, he really didn't understand what he was saying when he said that. He didn't realize those women applauding The reason why they were applauding Charlton is because he got them elected against him. And he didn't realize that, you know, when he was making the statement why they were applauding.
Yeah.
He made the comment, I didn't expect all that.
He thought it was about him.
Applauding him, Charlton, for his negative rhetoric that helped get them into Congress. When you think about the State of the Union, Charlton, and you looked at the Democratic side of the House, which was dominated by those women all dressed in white, which showed the unity of that party, Charlton.
Yeah, I loved it.
You saw all those younger women in the Democratic side, and yet you saw all those older, white, archaic men on the Republican side, Charlton. It shows a dynamic and switch in how our society is looking at itself, Charlton. We have to have more of an infusion of younger thinking people, Charlton. People that are in the mainstream, not old aristocratic white men who are not in touch with society and reality of where this country is moving towards, Charlton. That day of saying you had to be 70, 80 years old to know what other people wanted, Charlton. We have millennials who understand direction of politics, economics, you know, science. This is where our country is going. Well, when you look at all the innovators that are coming along now, Charlton, they are millennials. They are young people. If those people can create and keep this world going, Charlton, they can also run the day-to-day politics of this country. And I think that's what our president is out of touch with. When I listened to some of his rhetoric last night, Charlton, it was a repetitive rhetoric that we've heard for months. He hasn't given us anything new. And half of it was lies. I mean, you know, it's a dog whistle.
Right.
But, you know, the thing about it, I wish he would always stay on task about what our country needs. You know, to bring up that you still need this border wall, that people are being raped, and, you know, all this other stuff coming across the border, they're coming in committing crimes. He never talks about the disgruntled white men who commit more crimes in this country than anybody else. Look, he never addressed the 338 school shootings last year, Charlton. They were done by disgruntled white men. So, you know, these are the things that he needs to touch on. You know, when you look at the economics of this country, Charlton, you can always talk about job creation. But tell us about jobs lost. That's the thing about it. We're never hearing about the jobs lost. GM just closed up 3 plants, I believe it was. We're talking about major retailers going bankrupt and closing up their doors. He never addresses those. There was a huge plant up in Wisconsin, Charlton, that just withdrew that was going to, you know, employ 15,000 people. They said, no, we're not going to do the deal now. So, you know, I wish he would touch on that. Get off this border wall thing, because anybody who's realistic about American society, and you think you're going to put a border wall up and that's going to stop all the drugs that flow into our country, Charlton, that means you need to close the airport. You need to close the shipping lanes, Charlton, because that's where 90% of the narcotics that comes into our country comes from. He never will address those things, Charlton. If you're going to address immigration, talk about protecting the DACA children, Charlton, that came here as little kids. Now all of a sudden, this is the only country they know, and you're going to say you're going to deport them to where? They know nobody in those foreign countries, Charlton, because they've lived as American citizens, productive American citizens, their entire lives. They're college students, they're military workers, Charlton, there's people in our law enforcement. There's plenty of DACA people who've been very integral in America. There's criminals that come into this country, Charlton, not just through our southern border, but through every border. But we have so many criminals in this country, Charlton, that our president won't address because they look like him. That's the biggest problem in America.
You know, I was talking to a Native American friend of mine, and as an African American, a lot of African Americans know that when a lot of, you know, when slavery was going on in this country, they could get some help, some refuge from our Native American brethren that would actually help them hide from mainstream, from white men that were chasing them down. And POTUS, I thought he would make a speech about I think there was over 18 people who were undocumented workers that he hired for his own golf course. I thought he was going to make some type of acknowledgement of that too, and that he hired some people who were undocumented. So that knows they probably did not have any Social Security taken out because they didn't have the right documentation to have a Social Security number. You know, they were not taking out any type of wages or giving them a pay raise are paying into the Social Security. But that's POTUS' own golf courses. As he flies around on Air Force One, he still has some undocumented workers. And no matter whether you're Democrat or Republican, even if you're a white person and you think that POTUS is benefiting you, you got to see some hypocrisy in that. If you're trying to build a wall to keep out the people that you hired, and then you would claim that, oh, we didn't have the right updated system to make sure that they had the right working permits, that's just not true, Big C. They knew they were undocumented because they're not that ignorant. But people, do you understand how insulting that is to an intelligent person to say, oh, we didn't know that we had people working for us that were here, undocumented, or as he says, illegal. Does that make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, a lie is a lie. Well, when you want to say that you have not done a background check on your employees, I mean, every company in America, Charlton,
they all do it.
For decades have done background checks. I mean, that's the reason why you produce ID, a social security number, and any other information that is required by an employer, Charlton.
Yeah.
So to sit there and say we didn't have the right system, Charlton, it's called, filling out the social security number, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's the right system.
Yeah.
It registers whether it's a legal social security number. It goes along with the ID, Charlton.
Yeah.
You're going to have the place of birth that goes along with it. And if they can't speak English, I mean, that might be a hint right there.
You think it might be
a hint. If they only speak Spanish, then they got somebody translating for them.
Yeah, exactly. And if you fly around on Air Force One, I'm sure you know if you have some employees working for you that are undocumented. I just think it's all fair and love and war. Really, really love our country where we can have people disagree civilly and still have a heart to make our country better. I really appreciate Nancy Pelosi as a statement for women, just standing there behind the man that's had such vitriol for women, just standing there and deciding when she would get up and clap or not. I just hope that everybody can get along in this great country of ours. Speaking of people who don't have an identity, as we look at the NBA, the LA Lakers, man, there was so much talk over last season. Where will LeBron James go? Will the Lakers get him? Will the Lakers be in NBA contention again for a playoff, let alone championship? The Lakers lose to the Pacers last night, 136-94. Big C, that's the worst loss this team has had in the career of LeBron James. I know people can say, well, maybe they're distracted by all the talk about who's going to be there, who's not going to be there. What does Magic Johnson say when you have a team that gets beat 136-94? What's the appeal for Davis to come to L.A., Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, why would Davis want to come to L.A.? I mean, when you think about that trade and you think about that game last night, you're telling these players, we don't want you.
Yeah.
So I'm a player, so why should I go out there and play my heart out?
Yeah.
If I'm gone, based on all the media's rhetoric, and you haven't disputed that in any kind of way, why am I going out there to make you any better?
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, Charlton, you look at the Pelicans. You look at the players that the Lakers have offered, Charlton.
Yeah.
Ingram, Ball, Kuzma.
Yeah.
They already have Randall, okay? So that's the same Laker team that would be moving to New Orleans that they had last year.
Yep.
That team only won 35 games.
Yeah.
So why would the Pelicans realistically want to make that move, Charlton? They could not win in L.A. You think they're going to win in New Orleans where all you do is party every day? Well, let's be realistic about that.
Yeah.
And then, I'm still amused by the stigma of Anthony Davis. Everybody's so much in desire for him.
Yeah.
Charlton, he's won one playoff series in 6 years in the NBA. At what point did Anthony Davis become a superstar? And every time you turn around, he's hurt.
Yep.
I mean, when you talk about a team making a trade and throwing in 5 or 6 players, we're not talking about the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar trade that came from Milwaukee back in the 70s, Charlton, to the Lakers. This is a lose situation for the Lakers because you bring in Anthony Davis. What else do you have surrounding him? I know the Lakers just made a trade for a guard that they just picked up, Charlton.
Yeah.
But overall, what are you going to have left in the tank? You talk about creating symmetry with a team. The Lakers didn't have symmetry at this point of the season, Charlton. They're not going to get it by bringing in one player, getting rid of 4.
No.
It's not going to happen. And so all these illusions about the Lakers being a championship contingent team, Charlton, that was a 2 to 3 year process, even with bringing LeBron James in. People keep forgetting LeBron James went to Miami.
Yeah.
It took 3 years to win a championship.
Yep.
They weren't successful right away. And they brought in a lot of veterans along with LeBron. They brought in 6 other veteran players that were established in the NBA and contributed to that roster, Charlton. So when you're talking about bringing in just one player, it's not going to happen with the Lakers anytime soon, Charles.
We just talked about last week and you brought up, I call you the mystic, right? Because you know a lot about everything. And you just talked about, and people can Google this. We just talked about Chris Bosh. He was a big player that came from Toronto to Miami to fit in with LeBron James. His numbers went down. He didn't touch the ball as much. He was no longer the go-to guy. It was still LeBron. And remember I think it was the Diana Ross and the Supremes. It was all about Diana Ross. The Supremes could have been, they were exchangeable. They were expendable. But Diana Ross was the main one. Look at the Jackson 5. It was Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5. It wasn't just the Jackson 5. It became Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5. He was the one that they showed up for. Chris Bosh was on one of the programs this morning on the Mothership just a couple of days after you talked about that, because they're trying to get Davis to come. If he can see what happened to Bosh, he wasn't the guy that people say, we want to get those numbers. Woo, if we could just bring those numbers to the Lakers. No, if you bring them, those numbers are going to decline. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's hard to match superstars together. I mean, even when Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, I mean, Steph Curry's numbers went down overall.
Yeah.
Because he had to defer some shots to Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to find that balance, you get rid of all those young players. Who's going to have the ball all the time with the Lakers? LeBron is. I mean, yes, LeBron will get you some assists, but he's going to have to carry more of the load. And so how much a toll would that take on his body, Charlton? And then when you look at Anthony Davis, Charlton, I mean, he's that tweener player. Is he a center or is he a four? I mean, so you got to decide how you're going to position the rest of the team around. You know, I remember when they made the trade for Tyson Chandler earlier in the season, Charlton.
Yeah.
Came in and sparked the team. They won 6 games straight. Next thing you know, LeBron was gone. The team was nothing.
Yeah.
And so what's going to happen when Davis comes in? If he comes in, Charlton, we're talking about 18 hours away from the trade deadline.
Yeah.
If it is to occur.
Yeah.
I don't think that the trade will occur. If I'm the Pelicans, like I said, why do I want to bring in the Lakers team from last year?
Or last night. Look at last night.
but what I'm saying, they already got Julius Randle. They got at the start of the season because the Lakers released him.
Yeah.
You're talking about bringing 4 other starters, Charlton, out of that mix to the Pelicans?
Yeah.
You're looking at the Lakers South. Why would you want that? You've gotten rid of a player, and I don't see Anthony Davis, Charlton, being one of the top 10 players in the NBA. Everybody says he's a top 5 player. I don't see him as a top 10. Because the top 10 players, Charlton, the top 5 players in the NBA, you got to look at Harden, you got to look at Curry, you got to look at Durant, you got to look at James.
Yeah.
Okay? And then I'm going to go east and get a couple players. Kawhi Leonard's out there. The Greek Freak is out there.
Yep.
You know, Joel Embiid.
Yep.
You know, I haven't found him to be better than any of those players, Charlton. Well, so when you talk about him being a top 5, I don't know on my list, Charlton, if he cracks the top 10.
Well, even when you have Boogie Cousins, people see how good Boogie is. He was an all-star player with the Kings, and they really didn't appreciate it because he had an attitude. They wanted some Boy Scouts. He wanted to win a championship. He's most likely going to get one in Golden State. I would even argue that Boogie Cousins was a better player than Davis when they were teaming together as Twin Towers down in New Orleans. He got injured, and he even had to defer a lot to Davis because, you know, you got to agree at some time with a coach, hey, we're still going to feed this guy. That's for ego purposes. But if anyone can tell me that Davis is a better player than Boogie Cousins when they're both at full strength, I think that's a toss-up. So it's not as if he was even the best player on his team when they had Cousins. I mean, I just want to ask your thoughts. If the Lakers are going to make a big move, Cousins won't be in Golden State next year. Too much money. He can make too much money by leaving. You have the Clippers trading Tobias Harris to the 76ers. Jerry West ready to make the biggest splash in LA history, it seems. He's dumped 4 of his largest contracts off the team in less than half a year. So why are they chasing as opposed to building, Big C? Does that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, they are chasing. I mean, when you look at Jerry West and the contracts he's dumped in the last year and a half, he's gotten rid of Chris Paul. He's gotten rid of DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, Charlton, and Tobias Harris. You know, he just sent to the 76ers. So when you're talking about cleaning a roster, Charlton, he also got rid of Doc Rivers' kid.
Yeah.
So when you talk about creating cap space, the Clippers have more cap space than anybody else.
Yeah.
You've heard Kawhi Leonard's desire to go to the Clippers, Charlton.
Yeah.
Now, if Kawhi Leonard goes to the Clippers, then the domino effect starts to happen.
Yep.
Kawhi is there. Why wouldn't Anthony Davis want to be there? He's got a supporting forward, Charlton, to go along with him. Now you got money to get even a guard, Charlton.
Yeah.
You can bring some mid-level players in. When you think about what's going on in Los Angeles,
yeah,
you don't even know that Jerry West is making moves, Charlton. He's not being in the spotlight, but when you look at the organizations that he has built, he built the Lakers, Charlton.
Yeah.
He built the Warriors, Charlton.
Yeah.
Now he's in that process of trying to build the Clippers. And he's done them all very quietly. No one's paid attention to Jerry West over the years, Charlton. He hasn't been a boisterous GM wherever he has been.
He's not Jerry
Jones. He's been a guy behind the scenes, Charlton. You see him every night you see an NBA game. He's the logo on the pants. That's Jerry West.
Yeah.
That's as much as he wants you to know about him.
Yep.
But when he makes these quiet moves as an executive should, he's not trying to be showcased. He is the alter ego of Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
He hears nothing about him tampering or whatever that I want to be known.
Yeah.
Jerry West just goes out and does his job methodically.
Yep.
And that's what he's doing with the Clippers. You watch this organization next year, Charlton, they will leapfrog past the Lakers. The Lakers in popularity.
I know Big C Sports is the only one calling that now. If you go to the Lakers, you can't really measure up to what Kareem did. You can't. Magic Johnson's still looking for Magic Johnson. That's why he brought in Ball, because he had ball handling skills. But you can't replace Kareem. You can't replace Magic. You're never going to replace Shaquille O'Neal. You can't replace the great Wilt Chamberlain. So even if you go, you can't replace Kobe. If you go to, you can't replace West. If you go to the Lakers, and now you got LeBron, you can't replace him either. You're going to have to play second fiddle. Now find me the man that already has $100 million that wants to go be Robin in the new Batman movie coming out. You want to be a Batman, but they say, well, we already got Batman. We just need you to be second fiddle. Men are about egos, especially, what's that money called? I was learning my alphabet when the guys got the kind of money you got, Big C. It's called F, is it FG money or F something money? Jerry Jones understand. But if you got that kind of money, do you really want to be the third guy on a date so your friend can go out with the supermodel and you just sitting there driving? No, you want to be in the driver's seat, and the Clippers are more clear to make that choice than the Lakers. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, everybody's screaming max money, and what you just said about the $100 million that the guys are normally making anyway. It's about having the cohesiveness to be able to win a championship. It's not about just putting bodies together. You have to look at the climate that you're getting into when you go to a team. What's the chances of this team being competitive and beating the best team in the West?
Yeah.
That's the thing you have to think about. And everybody talks about this Los Angeles market, Charlton. Look at Denver, led by Jokic up there in Denver.
Yeah.
They're the second best team in the West, quietly, Charlton. No one realized what they were doing. All of a sudden, they have the second best team in the West.
Yeah.
You know, Snyder's done a marvelous job up there coaching that team, Charlton.
Amazing.
And no one realized what they were doing. But before you realize that they're the second best team in the West, right behind the Warriors, and have challenged them for first place a lot in the division.
Yeah.
But you haven't heard any trade rumors in Denver. You haven't talked about moving or acquiring. They're happy with the lineup that they have built, Charlton, quietly over the last 3 years. They assembled some players that wanted to play together, and now they are going to be a 2 or 3 seed in the West in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own thoughts to make about who they want to have, and oftentimes you just got to look at, where do I fit in when someone invites you on a date? Usually they got someone for you to date too. Hey, let's go on a co-date. But if it's just 3 people, you're like, well, who's going to be the one with the girl? Oh, you're going to drive us around. That's not appealing to a lot of men, unless you just don't have, you got to have some Batman in you to go someplace. If you want to be Robin, be second fiddle, then go play behind LeBron James. Because even when you play for LeBron, you're not going to have Walton there as coach, so that's in doubt. Who's going to be your coach? Unlike if you go play for Doc Rivers, you know Doc Rivers has championship pedigree. He's already proven it with the Celtics. He was also a dynamic player, and he's pretty much a straightforward guy. He's an alpha male. He's not like Walton, who's kind of passive and wants everyone to like him. So, everybody, again, we could be wrong. But I'm asking each person that's ever been in a situation, you already got more money than you'll ever need if you live 100 lifetimes. What's the benefit of going from being Batman on your team to being Robin in another man's house? That's like moving into your friend's house, and he can tell you when to leave, when to go, when to clean up, when to shut up. That's not appealing to a lot of men. that have their own ego, Big C. I want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, collegiate team, or high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. So with all the talk in the NBA tonight, would you believe the Sacramento Kings, they have a 7-game home winning streak. They bring in your friend, Traveling Harden. He travels more than you do frequent flyer miles. And they're coming to Sacramento tonight, the Golden One Center. He's probably going to get 50 points. But they got a young team, a pack of Lions, and they got a lion on the floor home court. They got a pack of young Lions, Big C, and they're looking to eat. And I don't know if they'll beat Houston, but I know they'll give them a game. They beat up on San Antonio. They knocked off Philadelphia the prior 2 games. They've been very consistent as a young team. They got to stop saying that they're young. They're all old enough to buy a drink. And this is a team, if they were to knock off Houston tonight, it would not be necessarily an upset. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is a team that's growing. They've put together a nucleus. You talked about Boogie Cousins used to be there. They got rid of him because the young guys could not build around him, Charlton, because he was so ego-driven in that organization.
Yep.
But when you have some guys that work cohesively together, Charlton, that's the staple that you look for. And, it's been a long time since the Kings got to this point of the season and we're above 500.
Yeah.
So they're challenging for a playoff position in the West, Charlton. Houston, James Harden, 27 consecutive games of 30 points, Charlton. That's the third longest streak in NBA history.
Yeah.
The first 2 are by Wilt Chamberlain, so, I don't know if he'll assist Wilt.
He owns every record, if you understand my point. Every record is owned by Wilt, Big C. Your thoughts?
When you look at Harden, Charlton, having to carry this team night in and night out because they've had so many injuries in this organization. So he has to go out there and score, Charlton. It's not that he wants to have to put that many points up every night because he knows that, physically his body's going to break down when it comes to playoff time. But if he doesn't do that, Charlton, Houston will be out of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. Whatever happened to Chris Paul, Big C? I thought he was going to be the savior down there. I've said all along, I know he's an all-star player. He's all-pro. He's probably a Hall of Famer for some reason. He's going to slip into that too. But they were better without him, I just thought. And I mean, you can sometimes you invite too many people to your party. There's only one basketball to pass out, and you have a guy that needs to have the ball in order for your team to win. Every time he gives it up, that's another shot for Chris Paul to miss. Big C, is that too far out of accuracy? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think this team lost a lot of its, camaraderie when they made some moves in the offseason, Charlton. And they brought in Carmelo Anthony, which did not fit. That cost you a young player on the roster, Charlton, that could have been productive. So this team sacrificed a lot early on, just like the Lakers are trying to do right now, Charlton, is that you're bringing in these older bodies, and the younger players are not there. And so those moves that you made are coming back to haunt you because you have some players not on the roster. Capella's hurt. When you talk about Paul, he's been hurt.
Yeah.
Anthony's no longer around, Charlton. So you're trying to, fill by committee, just the next guy up.
Yeah.
And the next guy is not always going to be productive enough to compete night in, night out on the NBA level.
Let me give you thoughts now. San Antonio, known as a team that's been in the playoffs, it seemed ever since they started making moonshine way back in the 1700s, Big C. They are at Golden State tonight. That's a team that they got had. I mean, they got a. When they lost to Philadelphia, they didn't have Thompson, who ironically is the guy, Big C. Everybody says, well, you can trade Thompson. Don't trade him. Keep everybody as long as they want to stay. Pop's in jeopardy of losing 2 in a row on his West Coast swing. He'll come back and bounce back anyway. But is there any chance of a letdown and have them go into Golden State and do what Philly did, which is beat a team that they should lose to by maybe double digits? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the NBA is a fickle friend, Charlton. Night in, night out. Anybody can rise up.
Yeah.
And who would have thought that the Lakers were going to lose by 42 last night?
Magic.
To a depleted Indiana team, Charlton, without Victor Oladipo.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that, when you look at on paper, even the odds makers in Vegas are still crying.
Yeah.
So, when you look at San Antonio, Pop is a coach, Charlton, that can come up with things. He's done it throughout his entire career. Matter of fact, he might have been a little heartbroken after the Super Bowl because Tom Brady and Bill Belichick had eclipsed him and Tim Duncan for the most championships over a length of time, Charlton, in pro basketball history. They, between their first championship and their fifth championship, Charlton, it had been 15 years.
Yeah.
You know, between championships. So this is the thing that, you know, Brady and Belichick had beat him on, so maybe he just wasn't motivated to coach. But if there's a coach who can get his team right, Charlton, Popovich can. I mean, always playing the Warriors is going to be a tough game for any opponent.
Yeah.
But they've showed that they have vulnerabilities at home also.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So a lot of good games that are being played in the NBA tonight. And I just know what we're seeing right now is really a changing of the guard. You can see how so many young teams, Milwaukee playing strong. You have a team like Denver finally breaking out of the shadows of Utah as being one of the teams in the Midwest part of the country that's really starting to play well. Tonight's schedule, Denver's at Brooklyn. Brooklyn's been playing, you know, good basketball. Can Denver go on the road and beat them there? It'll be a tough win, but they might have enough to get that win. New Orleans at Chicago. You have Washington at Milwaukee. Charlotte's playing at Dallas. Phoenix is playing up in Utah. We just talked about Houston at Sacramento and San Antonio at Golden State. Just give me one more thought on this NBA tonight, Big C. It's such a big game for Denver. I know they were blown out at home by Golden State, and then they got a big blowout win over Houston. It's easier to win at home, allegedly, in the NBA. Is there any chance of them dropping a game? Of course, there's always a chance. But Brooklyn's a tough out where they hadn't been a tough out in a long, long time. I think that tells us where Denver really is. Based on your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the state of the NBA right now, Charlton, teams are getting tired because they've passed almost two-thirds of the way through the season. On the road is always a challenge, especially when you got to go coast to coast, Charlton.
Yep.
You know, it can make it tough on any team. When you think about teams being on the road, the Atlanta Hawks were on the road for 7 days, Charlton, during that Super Bowl party that was going on in Atlanta, and they went 4-3, and they're an abysmal team. So when you think about Denver being on the road, Charlton, trying to keep pace with the Warriors, Charlton, and secure that second position in the Western Conference for the playoffs, I think they can go across country to New Jersey, well, New York now, and handle business in Brooklyn and get back out of there with a win.
Well, speaking of winning, we all want to win Lotto tonight, $200 million. Everybody's trying to buy, win the Powerball Lotto. I think I have the winning ticket because my butt keeps itching. And I knew I took a bath at least the last week. I knew I took some bath, Big C. But speaking of trying to get $300 million, why won't anybody give Bryce Harper $300 million? Why won't anyone give him $300 million? Is it because they realize that maybe they need to be drug tested too as an owner? You got a guy that's never really won anything. Oh, that's not true. He won the home run derby in his home stadium last year, but his dad was pitching to him, so I think that was some inside information that he knew what kind of pitch was coming to him. What could you buy with $300 million, Big C? It could buy you 3 million Cadillac Escalades. It could buy 3 million people in Ivy League education, Big C. It could do that for them. You could feed over 300 million people a $1 hamburger, which is what POTUS did to Clemson when they came to the White House. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think Major League Baseball has banned together against Scott Boras, the super agent, who was dictating these erroneous contracts, Charlton, for Major League players.
Make him write the check.
And so when you look at free agency, Charlton, nobody's made a huge splash in free agency. Teams have offered players mid-level money. And players got to realize and say, do I want to work? I think that's what it's coming down to now. Because when you look around baseball and you're seeing these stadiums, Charlton, not even half full,
they're empty.
It no longer justifies giving players these exorbitant contracts that they've been passing out in the past. And I think that's what Major League Baseball is looking at from a franchise perspective now, Charlton. It's like, how is this guy going to make us better? You're not going to go to a franchise that didn't make the playoffs, Charlton. It was a 500 club, and you bring in this player, Charlton. He's not going to make you a number one team in your division.
No.
That's what teams are looking at now. So when you look at teams that are struggling, and they dumped their high-priced players last year, Charlton, when it got down to the pennant chase, why do I want to bring in somebody that I would be paying more than the salary that I gotten rid of, hoping that this guy is going to make us a championship team, Charlton? and he's never won a championship. Similar like with what you have with Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
And everybody in the media is saying he has to be a Laker. He has to be a Laker. Anthony Davis has never won. So this is the thing you're looking at with Bryce Harper, Manny Machado.
Yeah.
Neither one of them has never won. Neither one of them has made their teams better, Charlton.
Nope.
And I think that's the number one thing that organizations are looking at now. Regardless of what Scott Boras wants to come in and say with the analytics and all that, Charlton, is like, has he been on a championship team? Does he have championship pedigree?
No.
That's what teams are looking at, Charlton.
No, I agree. Last I saw Manny Machado, he was on his knees praying at Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine, or was he striking out? He was either praying or striking out, Big C, but he wasn't hitting the ball is what I noticed. So if you got $300 million, give it to cancer research. You know, give it to feed hungry people in the United States. Give it to help veterans get housing. But to give a player, I mean, no one can tell me if baseball owners grow their wits and start really making their games more affordable for the fans, that are the reasons they really have a chance to go and play in a city anyway. You don't have to give that kind of money to a player. You can give it to your school district. I'm sure there's a lot of school districts. What can $300 million buy if you need to buy computers for a school? Where else can Harper go out and get a job paying him, $300,000 a year, let alone $300 million contract? They don't exist for him, or even Machado, or anybody. I think it's a new way of coming of intelligence where teams are going to stop doing that. You have spring training starts next week. Somebody's going to be maybe foolish enough to write a check, but you can't tell me the guy wouldn't play for $3 million a year. You're going to make your bank for $300 million. Just show me how many championships. He doesn't even have 1/6 of the championships that Tom Brady has. He has 6 of them. And I just think that it's a time they come to their senses, Big C. And I know baseball this year in the American League, Boston looks strong again. You know, Houston, they're looking like they're going to be a strong team again. The A's, they're a good team, but they'll probably fade because they just don't put a lot of money into the players either. The Dodgers will be strong again in the NL. The Braves will be great. They have a great young club. Maybe they were there a year early last year. The Cubs have a chance because they're always in the swing of things. In the San Francisco Giants, Bochy has a good chance to turn this team around again. Just want to get your feeling. I know spring training is not that sexy to talk about now. Your thoughts on if any of those players land, your thoughts on who might be dumb enough to sign them, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it comes down to the field. With training camp starting next week, Charlton, you have to look, will these guys not be in opening day of training camp? That's the biggest thing. And like I said, which organization would one of them make any better? Machado was let go by the Dodgers, Charlton. They let him play out his contract. They didn't bother to re-sign him. They were in the World Series.
Yep.
There's no need on the Red Sox for either one of them.
Nope.
There's always talk about the Yankees when it comes to big-time players, Charlton, going to the Yankees.
Yeah.
But you also got to look at the Milwaukee Brewers, who were in the World Series last year, Charlton, might be a player away. You know, Chicago could be an interesting landing stop for Harper. You know, they need some bats in the outfield.
Yeah.
So you got to be a playoff contender, Charlton, if you want to bring one of these players in. The Cleveland Indians could be a good fit.
Yeah.
They've had a strong organization the past 2 years. But you got to be in that playoff contention. Probably the best place for Harper would be with the Rockies.
Yeah.
The Colorado Rockies with that thin air, Charlton. He might be able to get 50 home runs up there in that park.
Yeah.
But, if you're not a playoff contender, Charlton, you can't justify going out paying this huge contract, Charlton.
It's dumb.
It's what we talked about in football. When you pay a quarterback max money, $150+ million a year, that salary cap is tilted now, Charlton. You got a lot of players that you got to try to bring in cheap and hope that they're just happy being there cheap, Charlton, but you get a cheap performance also out of the rest of those players.
Yeah, that's a great thought right there, Big C. Speaking of players making money and not making money, here's Nick Foles, who has a Super Bowl championship, a Super Bowl MVP, and he takes a $2 million buyout payment on the Eagles to void last year's contract where he was due to make $20 million. Who's worth more to an organization based on what you've won? Nick Foles won a Super Bowl MVP, and you have Harper and Machado. They haven't won anything. But give me your thoughts on Nick Foles. How can he win so much, but he's not won it, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's not that he's not won it. I mean, the Eagles had $20 million on the table for him next year. Here it is. He says, I want to go someplace and be my own starting quarterback.
Yeah.
That's what he's looking at. So he wrote the Eagles. He went and got him a cashier's check for $2 million.
Yeah.
Said, here, I'm going to go. That's what he's going to do. He knows that out there in free agency, Charlton, is that he can get that $100 million payday.
Yeah.
Your cousin got in Minnesota. He's never won anything. He's won more playoff games than your cousin has. So I know he can get a $100 million contract, Charlton, from the team.
Yeah.
That's what Nick Foles is looking at. And I don't blame him, because everyone is saying that Carson Wentz is the future in the franchise of the Eagles. Nick Foles can never be more than a glorified backup in Philadelphia, Charlton. There's too many openings for quarterbacks in this next year, Charlton. There's going to be 5 teams that's going to supplant their quarterback.
Yeah.
So he has an opening, Charlton, and an opportunity to be a full-time starter once again in the NFL.
When you look at I just think there's so much money, it's almost crazy when you think about it. And I wish him nothing but the best. We all want to be millionaires in life, Big C. How much we remember the past NFL season? I thought we talked about the high-priced quarterbacks. We have who broke the bank. Todd Gurley broke the bank for NFL running backs, and Darnold earned his money. He's one of the best defensive players out there, of course. And Ndamukong Suh even played good football on the D-line, especially in the playoffs. But this past season, outside of the Patriots winning 6 championships, everyone credits Tom Brady. But I remember his offensive line kept him off the ground for the most part, except for against the Rams. They're kind of like the no-name offensive line, though, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they are, Charlton. It's a group of guys that work well together, Charlton. You think about it, they're all in the same pay scale range. They let Nick Soto go after last season, Charlton, because he wanted free agency money.
Yeah.
He went to the Giants, got the money. New England brought in an offensive tackle. They got the Super Bowl victory, Charlton.
Yeah.
But when you're paying everybody on that same level, that they can be a no-name offensive line, Charlton. You don't have a Pro Bowl on your team.
Yeah.
But you have Super Bowl winners. All 5 of them won a Super Bowl ring this year, Charlton.
Yep.
That's starting off at the line for the Patriots.
Yep.
Those guys that were in the Pro Bowl did not win Super Bowl rings.
No.
So you got to think about it from a New England offensive lineman perspective. We're Super Bowl champions. Those other guys got Pro Bowl bursts.
Yep. That's always how. It's just funny how it all comes together. So there have been 3 quarterbacks with at least 50 touchdown passes in the single season in the NFL. Peyton Manning, 54. And obviously Peyton, a student of the game, wasn't very athletic, but could really just read defenses. He really learned how to do that from the high school level all the way to Tennessee and then playing in the NFL. Tom Brady had 50. Another quarterback that's not very athletic, pretty much a stand-in-the-pocket kind of guy, not someone that's going to scramble around, like a Michael Vick from back in the day, or even Randall Cunningham from back in the day, or even when you look at, Wilson up in Seattle, how he could run around. But Brady got 50. And then Patrick Mahomes, I think he's the prototype of the new quarterback over the next 10 years. He's a mobile guy. He's a run-play option quarterback. He can throw the ball side-handed, which no one teaches you to do that, Big C. They say, no, you got to throw the ball over the top. And I want to get your thoughts, because neither one of those teams, didn't win a Super Bowl. But it doesn't mean that you're going to win when you throw the ball a lot. You still got to have some sort of a running game and a great defense, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about it, Charlton, when Peyton Manning got to Super Bowl throwing 54, Tom Brady got to Super Bowl throwing 50. Patrick Mahomes came up 1 game short of that, Charlton, throwing 50 touchdown passes this year.
Yeah.
So when you look at how to change the league has changed with the dynamics at the quarterback position, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were similar types of individuals standing in the pocket, Charlton. They were going to step back and get the ball to where it needed to be.
Yeah.
They're that knowledgeable of the game. When you think about the 2 greatest minds to ever play that position, Charlton, that's those 2 guys.
Yeah.
Between them, it was like a chess match.
Yeah.
Who was the most knowledgeable, who recognized it quickly. When you talk about Patrick Mahomes and what he's brought into this game of NFL football, Charlton, the new dynamic that he brings to this game is that, people have to stop looking at what they thought was an NFL prototype quarterback. And now they're looking at a guy, Charlton, who can produce on the field. They're not looking at, the 6'5" right guy that's going to be drop back passer, Charlton, because your cousin in Minnesota can't make it work.
You're not my cousin.
They're looking at the guys, Charlton, that can do more than that. You think about Aaron Rodgers. No one ever says he's an athletic quarterback. He runs as much as any black quarterback has ever been running in the NFL.
Yeah.
But nobody ever labeled him as a scrambling quarterback, Johnson, but he does it all the time.
Yep.
The days of just drafting Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, even Tom Brady, Charlton, are bygone years. Those guys are not getting it done. You look at the crop of young rookie quarterbacks that came into the NFL this past season, Charlton, they all had high mobility.
Yeah.
Except for Josh Rosen, and he got clobbered in the pocket.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
When you think of 4 of the 5 quarterbacks, Charlton, they had mobility. They were able to buy time. That's what franchises are looking at now, Charlton. Can you buy the time and extend the play?
Yeah, that's a good point. Speaking of buying time, Drew Brees, we saw him break records. We saw Patrick Mahomes take over the league as a sidearm, underarm thrower, kind of like a pitcher would be. Left hand, southpaw, could even throw it left-handed. And he's just an amazing player, 50 touchdown passes. Drew Brees, not in the same conversation with Tom Brady when it comes to accomplishments, but many people still feel that Drew's going to have all the records by the time he steps away from the game. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he does have all the passing records. I mean, when you think about it, he set the percentage record, Charlton, the yardage record, touchdown records next on the list, Charlton. The accomplishments that Drew Brees has done with the least amount of ability, Charlton, being diminutive in stature, he's just dominated the NFL, Charlton, for over a decade at the quarterback position. And it came from even after destroying his shoulder, Charlton, having to have that reconstructed.
Yeah.
So when you think about what he has brought to the NFL, more so as a person even than a player, Charlton, we know of his, feats on the field.
Yeah.
But what he has done off the field, Charlton, to a region, to a city, to a state, is greater than what any other football player has done in the NFL, Charlton.
Yeah, he's done a great job at that. We talked about Nick Foles going looking for a new contract. You think he should take a picture of Kirk Cousins and put it in front of him, or at least with his resume? Because this is a guy that hasn't won anything, and he got $84 million. Well, maybe if that should be his bargaining chip, can you at least give me $20 more million than this guy got? I at least got a ring. Now, we saw Kirk Cousins, $84 million, free agent contract, which is guaranteed. I think for the owners, that has to be where you say, never again, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that was a true fleecing of the NFL. When you talk about going out desperately looking for somebody that you thought was the Pandora box of quarterbacks, Charlton, that this was the best guy out there in the free agency. But, a big part of it, Charlton, is that the owners listen to the media, just like the president, sitting up watching the news all day long, so he can figure out what to say. That's what these owners were doing, Charlton, listening to all these sports talk shows saying, this is a guy you have to have.
Yeah.
The one thing, they said, well, look at his statistics. Well, hell, he was always behind, so he should have those statistics. Look at his win-loss record. That's what you look at. First thing you look at is win-loss record with a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Second thing with the win-loss record, Charlton, how many of those wins came against teams with winning records?
Yeah.
That's the number 2 thing. What's the win-loss record? How many wins came against teams with winning records, Charlton? That's what you look at when you're evaluating an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and say, well, he's passed for almost 5,000 yards 3 straight years.
Yeah.
Okay. But he was under 500 as a quarterback.
How many games did they
win? That's it. He was chasing yardage all the time.
Yeah.
Give me the quarterback that's not chasing yardage, Charlton.
Yep.
Give me the quarterback that's passing for 250, 270 yards a game and has a winning record. I can go to the bank with that guy. But when you give me somebody like Matthew Stafford in Detroit, say, well, he has more comfort behind wins than any quarterback in NFL history. Well, hell, that means he was behind more than any quarterback in NFL history.
That's funny.
It's all the side. Is it a double-edged sword or the one side is dull? That's what you're looking at, y'all.
I love that, Dixie. I love how you tie things down. What do you guys use for moonshine? Is it apples or is it potatoes? You guys are slicing something. I know you don't want to give away the secret recipe, so maybe you won't even give that out, Big C. But speaking of secret recipes, Cincinnati Bengals' new head coach, Zach Taylor, he followed the same route as former San Diego Chargers head coach Mike McCoy to the NFL. remember they wanted to fire McCoy after a while, but will they give the chance? Will they give this gentleman a couple of seasons? Is it kind of like they're treating the coaches like the black coaches? Will they give you 1 year? If you don't win in the first year, you're out. You think they'll give him a couple of years to succeed up in Cincinnati since Marvin Lewis was so successful making the playoffs? Your thoughts?
Well, the Cincinnati Bengals have had a long run of keeping coaches, Charlton, there. They let coaches stay around, so it won't be a quick turnaround with Zac Taylor as far as trying to get him out of the house. But when you talk about Mike McCoy, the same type of paths for these two quarterbacks, Charlton. They both were Canadian Football League quarterbacks, but they were backups. They weren't even starters in the Canadian Football League. You look at Mike McCoy. We talked about Peyton Manning earlier having a 54 touchdown season, Charlton, in Denver. Mike McCoy was the offensive coordinator when Peyton Manning threw those 54 touchdowns in Denver.
Yep.
He was quickly elevated to get a job as a head coach of the San Diego Chargers.
Wow.
They felt that Mike McCoy was the reason why Peyton Manning was able to get 54 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning had nothing to do with it, Charlton. Similar situation with Zach. Going to Cincinnati, Charlton. They look at the development of the quarterback there, Jared Goff in Los Angeles. They look at what Todd Gurley had done as a running back.
Yeah.
Well, he was a quarterback's coach, so he had to be behind the development of Jared Goff.
Yeah.
So now he gets the head coaching job in Cincinnati. Will he have a 3-year run like Mike McCoy did, Charlton?
That's a good
These
point.
former Canadian League backup quarterbacks that couldn't get a job, all of a sudden in their 30s, elevated to head coaching positions in the NFL because there was a quarterback that did some spectacular things.
Yeah.
Was it the quarterback coach, Charlton, or was it the quarterback?
That's a good point, Big C. Greg Schiano, also Patriots' new defensive coordinator. I want to ask you, we saw, thinking of what happened this year in NFL, reflecting, we even saw the Cleveland Browns, win a couple of games. They were not that far from knocking on the playoffs. And I know they don't want to give the credit to the coach they got rid of, but they want to give all the credit to Baker Mayfield. But Mayfield didn't draft himself, Big C. I want to get your thoughts on Cleveland. Do they have the tools now to at least pursue another playoff chase in the next 2 years? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at what the Browns have now in Freddie Kitchens as the coach, this is a coach with no experience. He was a backup quarterback. Well, he was a starting quarterback when he was at Alabama.
Yeah.
That's his claim to fame. But that was years gone by, Charlton. And when you look at the Browns, Charlton, they won't be playing a last-place schedule this year.
No.
They're going to be playing a middle-of-the-pack schedule, so they're going to have some tougher opponents. They're not going to sneak up on anybody.
Yeah.
And now that people have game film on them, Charlton, they're going to be more prepared for them. So, it was nice to see the Browns win 7 games this past season, Charlton.
Yeah.
We thought that they would go 500 on the season.
Yeah.
They were half a game away from that. But, it's always a new season in the NFL every year, Charlton.
Yeah.
And there were some antics done by their quarterback that may not go over well, Charlton, with the rest of his brethren in the league.
Yeah.
When it comes time to play, you're going to have to adjust his attitude, Charlton, and be more of a team player than that cocky individual.
Yeah, that's amazing. He'll hopefully learn that, Big C. To top off what happened at the end of the season, you have the New England Patriots beating the L.A. Rams. And they treated us to the lowest scoring game in the Super Bowl ever. It was not exciting. It's as if you buy that Ferrari and you just want to step on the gas. You like to hear the engine sounds. It was a great game defensive-wise. I'm sure a lot of defensive coordinators, they're still celebrating on how low scoring that game was, Big C. But for most people who like offense, they thought it was kind of a dud, Big C. But you can only go up next year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the football game, the defensive players are paid just like the offensive players are paid. And you look at the defensive coordinators that were involved in this contest, Charlton, it's some of the best in the league.
Yeah.
And so by them being able to come out and recognize what their opponent was doing, Charlton, that's the thing about going into football games, is everybody is always reveling about the quarterbacks, what they expect from the quarterbacks. There's been more talk about the quarterbacks not performing and Todd Gurley not getting the plays in the game, then there's been talk about the defense.
Yeah.
When you look on the Patriots side of the ball, Charlton, you look at Kyle Van Noy, Dante Hightower. Those players, Charlton, could have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. You look at the secondary of the Patriots.
Yeah.
That's what gave Jared Goff such a tough time, Charlton, is that they were making adjustments on the fly. You know, after that 15 seconds was up, Charlton, that he could no longer communicate with the coach, Charlton.
Yep.
That's when they started making their defensive adjustments. Jared Goff wasn't ready for the rapid fire of the New England Patriots defense. You think about it, Charlton, this is a team that's been in the Super Bowl the past 3 years.
Yeah.
They know how to make adjustments, Charlton. They couldn't make them last year against Philadelphia, but, you know, you think about the adjustments that they've made, Charlton, in the second half of that Super Bowl against the Falcons, as well as the adjustments that they have made against the Rams. And you think about the Falcons and the Rams, quite similar offenses, Charlton, the way that they're run. Jared Goff was always a step slow getting the pass there, and the defense was able to close on him.
Yeah.
And even when you think about Wade Phillips, Charlton, this wasn't his first go-around in the Super Bowl.
No.
He's done a marvelous job defending teams before. So, I mean, you just have to look at the defensive coordinators and the defensive players in this game, Charlton, and said they played a well of performance from both perspectives.
Yeah, both perspectives. And we'll close out with Jon Gruden and the Raiders. Nobody knows what Jon Gruden was doing. You know, he helped several NFL teams make the playoffs, and you think about how they benefited from the Raiders and Jon Gruden just trading away the farm for some reason. Crabtree ended up in Baltimore. They made the playoffs. You have Cooper down in Dallas. They made the playoffs. The Bears got Mack. The Rams, Anderson. Seattle had Janikowski. And I'm sure there's another player somewhere that also slid under the radar. Big C, your thought on the great Jon Gruden?
Well, you know, like I said before, Jon Gruden should be up for Coach of the Year, Charlton, because he got more teams into the playoffs.
Yeah.
He got half of the NFL into the playoffs, because there's 6 teams from each conference.
Yeah.
That makes the playoffs. Jon Gruden got 6 teams into the playoffs, and the Raiders had to sit at home and watch that.
Yeah.
So when you talk about a coach that's recognizing talent, Charlton, that other teams should have, Jon Gruden was an evaluator prior to becoming a head coach.
Yep.
I think he missed his calling, Charlton, by leaving that and trying to be a coach. So, you know, Jon Gruden, I mean, he's going to get a lot of Christmas cards and thank you cards, birthday cards from other NFL owners, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because he's a genius.
Yeah.
Send us your best player.
And what a bargain, as they say. Everybody, we know it's all fair and love. Keep the faith no matter what you do. Have faith in God. Have faith in yourself. Whatever it is, just keep going forward. Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C. What are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, last week we sent out a celebration to the late Jackie Robinson on his 100th, what would have been his 100th birthday, Charlton. And yesterday was the 85th birthday of Hammer and Hank, who statistically was the greatest home run hitter in Major League Baseball when he retired, Charlton, after breaking Babe Ruth's record. And, you know, wanted to send out a happy birthday a day late to the great Hammer and Hank down there in Atlanta, Charlton.
Yes.
You know, here's a guy who had to fight through that civil rights struggle, Charlton, all the segregation and racism that was going on in America through his illustrious career, Charlton.
Yeah.
But he never bowed down, Charlton. He held his head high. He set a standard for minorities in America at that time, Charlton, to show that you could accomplish anything through adversity. I just want to say congratulations and a happy belated birthday to the great Hank Aaron.
Well, that's amazing. Great job with that, Big C. Happy birthday, Hank Aaron. Happy birthday to everybody that has hope and a belief for a better future. You can believe every Monday through Friday at 5 or 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as we always tell you, there's never ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. As we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.